Hello, and welcome to Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am your host, John Rothman. If you're a fan of the show, make sure to hit the follow button on the top right of Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you are listening at this very moment. When you hit follow, leave a review or share an episode with a friend. It helps other people discover the show, keeps us going. As I like to remind you each and every day, it expands our base. I want to talk with you this morning about a changing world. We all know there is a tsunami alert as a result of the 8.8 earthquake which hit Russia. We know that whether you're in Hawaii or in Northern California, there is a tsunami alert and it does impact all of us. The world is changing, and we know that because of climate change, which is now an accepted fact. Okay, there are those who are still climate deniers, those who still believe there is no real change taking place. But the simple truth is that every major scientific authority says that there are changes taking place, and it does affect our world. There's no doubt about it. And so, for many of us, the report that the Environmental Protection Agency is moving to repeal climate regulation came, well, as no surprise, because that was the position of Donald Trump before the election in his last administration. And now, clearly, it has an impact. The proposed Environmental Protection Agency rule would rescind a, a 2009 declaration that determined that carbon dioxide and other greenhouse gases endanger public health and welfare. This move will allow for a greater discharge into our atmosphere of those chemicals, yes, chemicals, which we are told have impacted our environment. The director of the Environmental Protection Agency, former Congressman Zeldin, who I would remind you did run for governor of New York and lost, Lee Zeldin announced the proposed rule change in a podcast ahead of an official announcement. And now we know that there will be yet a further erosion in environmental protection. Do I have to remind you that already the effect of the Trump administration's decision not to subsidize the various new sources of energy, when I say new, I mean wind and I mean solar, all of these benefits, well, they seem to be evaporating. The EPA proposal must now go through a lengthy review, including public comment, before it's finally implemented next year. But there is no doubt that even though environmental groups and scientists and world organizations will protest, there seems little doubt that the Trump administration is determined to go ahead. Zeldin called for a rewrite of the endangerment finding in March as part of a new move to correct what the Trump administration believes are our exaggerated views of the environment. I will never forget having this argument on the air, on KGO. There were people who would call and say, oh no, this is all a fraud. There is no real change. Take a look at history. There are periods of warmth and periods of cooling. And the simple truth is, they're right. There are periods in which you have greater heat, greater cooling, but nothing like this has ever impacted us so completely. The EPA also is expected to call for rescinding limits on tailpipe emissions that were designed to encourage automobiles and automobile manufacturers to build and sell more electric vehicles. I find it mind-boggling. I lived in Southern California in the San Gabriel Valley for a number of years, and I can remember leaving my home in the morning with a white shirt and coming back, and it was all grimy in the evening. It was because of smog. It was because of pollution. And now it seems we are going to go back to a different days. You should know that 3 former EPA leaders have criticized this move, and there is no doubt that no one is listening, at least no one in the Trump administration. We can see environmental impact around us. You all know what happened recently with massive flooding. The fact that NOAA has been cut. The fact that the FEMA people have been in danger. And you'll recall that Donald Trump actually favored eliminating FEMA altogether until these terrible disasters took place in Texas. I could talk about 1,000,001 things, but I guess last night when the tsunami alert came through, it occurred to me that we're not ready. We're not ready for environmental changes. And although the odds are that in your lifetime and mine, the impacts will be controllable, that in future generations, for our children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, the world will be a very different place. What are we going to do about it? I asked a leading environmentalist who is a friend of mine a question. If the Democrats win the next election, the presidency, will there be any measurable way of repealing a lot of these executive orders and actions by the Trump administration? And the answer is yes, of course it can be reversed. But can the damage done in the meantime really be reversed completely? And the answer is no. These are important times. And we can talk about Ukraine, we can talk about the Middle East, we can talk about all of the issues which have been dominating the news, not to mention our domestic affairs. But the simple fact is that if we lose our planet, it won't make any difference. So for the EPA under Zeldin to move to repeal climate regulation, frankly, it should disturb us all. There will be a battle, but given how Republicans seem to be voting in the House and Senate, I have a feeling the odds of overturning what former Congressman Zeldin is doing are limited. Is Lee Zeldin doing it himself? He works for Donald Trump. This is Donald Trump's view of the world. And so, my friends, this morning we talk about the future of our world in a real sense, because if we lose the battle to control our climate, the whole world will change, and not for the better. Thanks for tuning into another episode of Around the Political World with John Rothman. I am John Rothman. Make sure to follow along, let me know your thoughts on the show by leaving a review on Apple Podcasts and sharing an episode with a friend or colleague so we can continue to grow and expand, which of course is our goal. You can interact with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course email, and I appreciate hearing from all of you. And now, my special appreciation to Gogo Zoger, the wonderful producer of this podcast. We'll keep going, of course,